The voice of sharing, dü人阿香。
ASEAN Dailies, first and foremost news from Southeast Asia. Welcome to Durian ASEAN. I'm Grace Cho, and you're with Durian ASEAN on the ASEAN Dailies. We deliver news from Southeast Asia. Now we are at the morning session, and then this is just an update of what happened in Bangkok the other day. There was a bomb that blasted and then that area, and then as that toll climbs up to about 22 people right now. And this is another shocking news after what happened to Tianjin incident the other day. And the death toll from the Bangkok blast has risen to 23, with 123 injured. And also there are 7 tourists from China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, as well as other countries. They were among those who are killed in the attack. And there was this hunt intensified for the bombers and shock. The Thai struggled to come to this term with the scale of their damage, with the struck at the dusk as the worshippers, as well as the tourists thronged the street side. It's called a Rawan Shrine in the city commercial herd. And what happened was that there was the CCTV that was captured by of course, CCTV in the Bangkok. And what happened was there was this guy who was carrying bag towards the shrine, and then he was on the queue. That he left his bag and then left just very silently. So now with that footage, the more investigations are taking place at the moment. So apparently the death toll is now 21, with 123 wounded as mentioned before, and of the dead, 14 were killed at the blast site. Adding the bomb probably contained 3 kilograms of the explosive. Military authorities updated the death toll to 22 later, which was just yesterday. And the Private Office released a breakdown of these nationalities caught up in the blast that showed 2 Chinese, 2 Hong Kongers, and 2 Malaysians, and 1 Singaporean, and 5 Thais. They were confirmed killed. The rest have yet to be identified. And apparently there was this news, just a post on the Facebook about these 2 Malaysians, 1 schoolgirl and a mother who visited the country just a couple of days ago. Then it was unfortunate that they were in that site to meet this incident. And of all those wounded, the Thais made up the largest number, with the 42 being treated, and it was followed by 28 Chinese, Japan, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Malaysia, Maldives, Oman, the Philippines, and Singapore. All had 1 or more national wounded according to the list. So those are the updates from what happened in the Bangkok blast the other day. But then other than that, the question is, with the government transitions going on here, a lot of people have been doubting about the transition, as well as perhaps the military forces there. So what happened was, like I mentioned before, there was a man who sort of left his backpack, and then of course this man was one of the key suspects so far, and of course 20 people were died in Monday's blast, and it was just half of them are foreigners. But apparently this man, it was just a very blurry image of this suspect. It was already released, and he carefully and also deliberately removing his backpack inside the shrine, and he got up and just left the scene. And after that, of course, the bomb went off in a few minutes later. So now the whole police, the Thai police, is putting the assumption and also almost deciding who the guy is, and they are looking for this guy apparently. So more updates will coming up on the ASEAN Dailies. So stay tuned. After this short break, we'll deliver news on political side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Triana ASEAN. You are with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And we are at ASEAN Dailies. We deliver news from Southeast Asia. And we are at this segment where we discuss news and also comment on the political side of ASEAN. And let's go to Myanmar, where we're talking about the poverty in Myanmar. Still, Myanmar is not so developed country where the poverty drives Myanmar girls into underage sex work. And this teenager, Wood Yi, she was devastated when her mother, who is one of the workers, told her that she had just agreed to sell her daughter's virginity to just a businessman of a certain amount. And here we're talking about $3,000.
And what happened was this girl had to just, she was only 14 at that time, and she had to just quit school. She had to handle the household chores and also look after her brother because there was no other source of income. And what's even worse is after her mother told her that I've sold you off to this man because we need some money, and she just had to follow him home the next morning and just spend the night with him and then just come home. And after that she had to see a doctor because she was in a lot of pain, and he had to inject her with anesthetics, and also she was under a lot of psychological trauma and fear after that, after spending a night with this man. I mean, imagine that, only at the age of 14, and she is already being forced into prostitution. And this is also one of the reasons that caused this is also because the sex workers in Myanmar tend to work in secret as well, that it's not really a highlighted problem in the country.
It is very problem when it comes to sex workers, especially countries like Myanmar. And then not only Myanmar, when you think about the Southeast Asia, this kind of is a trend, selling girls or even daughters to businessmen just for the money. And that also shows how incompetent that the market is throughout the Southeast Asia. I mean, there are more opportunities out there, but then what if all these ASEAN countries, they don't focus on the education, and then especially Myanmar, the education system is not up to par, that they just find the easiest way to earn money and they get the sources from, which is very inappropriate way to get all this money from. And of course, we're talking about Myanmar, and Myanmar towards the election in November, there seems to have a lot of ups and downs, and that this adds one more. I mean, this adds to the perhaps the fire that people just worried more about their children now.
I think the issue here, definitely one of it is education, like you mentioned, and that can also serve to help these people to get out of poverty, which is the main reason why a lot of these people had to resolve to becoming sex workers, even kids as young as 14. And another thing is also the virgin market, they call it in Myanmar, is actually quite happening, where a lot of people go to Myanmar to buy underage girls for sex, and this is also fueled partly by their superstitious belief that sleeping with virgins has more health benefits to the guy. And for example, you can have a longer life, and it also sort of boost your immune system when you sleep with a girl who is a virgin. Yeah.
Come on, if you want to have a longer life, go and exercise and have a healthier diet rather than violating all this. It is also human rights, isn't it? And then all this child sex, it's not acceptable in the public. And like we all mentioned before, sex education is one of the key elements wherever you guys are. And well, a lot of people do say they don't blame the mother what happened to them, and also it's also according to the daughter. She said, "I'll just get married one day, and I'm only thinking of ensuring my daughters do not have to suffer the same fate." But how assured can she be when it comes to situation? Because she was the one who was sold off, and if she meets another financial sort of crisis, there is a possibility, isn't it?
And also the short-term solution to this issue is definitely sex education. And as much as we definitely want to see some reform, we want to see the Myanmar government doing something about these underage sex workers who are definitely at physical risk, emotional risk. They are too young to even know how to handle it after they have sex with someone, especially with a stranger. And the quick short-term solution that they can do is, of course, at least teach these girls how to protect themselves, how to prepare themselves for the aftermath of the morning after. And according to sex workers in Myanmar, it seems sex education is almost non-existent, especially among the youth, which is the most critical one. And which is why these kids, most of them, like what you were saying, they just said they're just gonna get married one day, and they're just trying to do this for their family while they still can, while they are still able to help out and earn some extra income. But at the end of it all, I mean, apart from getting anesthetic, she's only getting anesthetic to prevent the pain. But what about in terms of birth control and other emotional factors that are involved as well? All this can have quite a lasting effect on the girl, especially when you're really that young.
Well, that's very true. And apparently it is sort of impossible to know how many underage girls like would are involved in this trade in Yangon, the country's biggest city that is home about 5 million of nations of 53 million people. So, I mean, government is going towards the transition, but at the same time, the focus also needs to be on the poverty. Because of the poverty, people want to look for the easiest way to get the resources or the money from. So this is something that the government really, really needs to consider. And the Myanmar is also having a lot of human rights when it comes to Rohingya and Muslim and then Buddhism as well. So these are also other focuses that they have to focus on. Well, let's move on to the Philippines. Well, Philippines has been having this sort of tension between these two people, and apparently Roxas personally asked Po to be the running mate in 2016.
And of course, like you mentioned, there's been a lot of tension between Roxas and the Senator Po, because they are both supposed to be running for presidency next, taking over from Aquino, who is serving his final term. And it seems this happened on Sunday night, where this was their first meeting with President Aquino III, who personally endorsed Roxas as well as Liberal Party standard bearer, and also the first meeting since he announced to the media that he would want Po to be his vice presidential running mate. And apart from that, Roxas was also he didn't reveal much details, but he did say that he was happy with the turnout of the meeting, and that the Liberal Party standard bearer also claimed that there would be another meeting. And I think this issue is really hot in Philippines right now, because whenever there's an election and it's time to pick someone new to run the country, it's not an easy job, is it? I mean, even with the whole country going out to vote, of course, some people would choose not to, some people would, and this could change the entire political landscape in the country. And in this case, of course, it's very people are eager to see who is going to take over after Aquino and carry on or revamp his policies. And that's why it's very important that we study our two candidates here, who is Roxas and Po.
But after all, it's the Filipino who takes the proper leader to run the country. So it is very very crucial and also very important when it comes to choosing the leader for the nation. Well, although Roxas, that's how you pronounce it, declined to say when the meeting took place, it happened which was just the last week at a Po's home, and Roxas was in the Davao and then flew straight into Brunei, where he stayed until just a Saturday morning. And in fact, just a little bit about information about Po. He has been the leading presidential preference surveys, trailed by the opposition standard bearer, Vice President Joe Marbine, and Roxas, who was officially endorsed by the President Aquino III on the July 31st. So there are of course, it's a conflict and the tension is still there, but hopefully we can look forward to receiving more positive news, because apparently a lot of Southeast Asian countries are going towards the elections.
That's
and
right.
a lot of attentions are there, and then people are putting their eyes on these elections sort of plans and how they're going to go about.
Right. And it seems that Rojas is getting mixed reactions from the people as well. Although he is a popular candidate, a lot of people have come forward and even written articles about 10 reasons why Rojas will not be the president
Exactly.
of Philippines. And it seems that he's a popular candidate, but not necessarily the favorite candidate among the people. And in that terms, I think Senator Grace Poe actually has a better chance. But of course, it's still at the early stages, and we'll see if anyone else is joining the bandwagon as well to run for presidency.
Sure. Well, let's move on to the next news, which is about ASEAN. And apparently ASEAN joins forces to combat human trafficking. And we just talked about the human rights. And of course, human trafficking is one of the biggest issue when it comes to ASEAN. And not only, hopefully, this is not the or another time that ASEAN talks about just a plan, but that we really want to see those plans in actions. So the crime of the trafficking in the persons affect virtually every country in every region in the world. But apparently this ASEAN is having the sort of high rate when it comes to human trafficking, and when it comes to women, men, even children, they are sent or forced to have this labor and also the sexual exploitations.
That's right, Grace. Forced labor and sexual exploitation seems to be our two biggest issue in ASEAN that we haven't been able to solve yet. And although we are heading towards an integrated community, and we're trying to, of course, have a free flow of free flow of people, services, capital, and goods, this is something that should not be overlooked as well, which is why they have come together. This event was actually hosted by the Human Rights Commission. Actually, it's Handa Center for Human Rights, and as well as the International Justice at Stanford University. And this event had support from a lot of people, from the British Embassy in Jakarta, from the Singapore Foreign Ministry, as well as the U.S. government as well. And the theme was to prevent slavery and trafficking in persons in ASEAN, of course. And it's become such a huge business as well that is making it even more difficult for people to get out of it, as much as they're trying to perform a crackdown on it. We had a crackdown in Thailand recently with human trafficking, but because it's such a lucrative business, sadly more and more people are getting into it instead of getting out of it. And this is why it's very important that ASEAN came together and join forces to try to combat the human trafficking that's been happening. And like you were mentioning, they will provide a blueprint, an action blueprint for ongoing cooperation and coordination as well. And it's great to see all the different countries coming together, even Britain, the British Commission, and the US as well, who are not in ASEAN, because at the end of it all, like what happened with the boat people issue, when it just suddenly explodes and then the whole world had to deal with it. It wasn't just ASEAN anymore, which is why that at the end of the day, it is a human rights issue. It is a universal issue, and it's best for everyone to work together to try and combat this.
Exactly. So not only having the blueprint, we hope that all those plans are taken into action and really show the result of when it comes to human trafficking, because ASEAN countries, like we mentioned before, trafficking towards the ASEAN countries is one of the hitting the highest rate apparently. And then as of 2014, which is last year, it was estimated about 7,000 victims of trafficking in persons as well. So which is very, very serious, and those are taking places in a lot of suburban areas, villages, or even all those basically the rural areas in the country. So it really needs to be considered and also perhaps investigated even further, the cause of it and why people are, still keep on carrying out these activities.
And I wonder where's Malaysia in this as the chairman of ASEAN as well.
Exactly. So, well, it's already August and heading to September. Malaysia doesn't have a lot of time to conclude the chairmanship here. So hope that we can also see some actions from Malaysia as well. So we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll deliver news from the economic and business side of Southeast Asia. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome to Drian ASEAN. You are still on ASEAN Dailies with Grace.
And this is Gowri.
So we'll be focusing on economic and the business side of Southeast Asia. So the first news that we want to discuss is about the banking and also labor industry. They will be gearing up for ASEAN integration, and then more banks and also other financial institutions are complying with the labor laws as the country prepares for the economic integration with ASEAN. And then this has a lot of focuses on apparently, and of course later Secretary Rosalinda Baldos reported that thousands of financial institutions have voluntarily submitted for inspection on labor compliance as well.
And they are working on a few deficiencies as well, as called for under the system. And they are looking at a lot of establishments covered, which either provide or implement various employee welfare programs and benefits. And one of the things when it comes to AEC, when we talk about ASEAN integration, is definitely the banking industry, because that's something that a lot of people look at when you go to a different country and you want to start up your business there. How easy is it for me to go to the bank or to apply for a loan? What are the documents that they would need? So to actually come up with a standardized SOP or system for all the banking industry in the ASEAN region is definitely quite a crucial step in terms of moving forward with the AEC. And it seems that they have also been working on agreements. One of it is the Banking Industry Tripartite Council to strengthen the competitiveness of our local banking industry and also to sustain the industrial peace in the region.
It is very interesting because once all this banking system as well as labor laws are adjusted towards the ASEAN, doesn't mean that all the other nations also need to adjust themselves to this one particular law. Wouldn't that create a more sort of chaos or sort of confusion, because they need to adapt to this adjusted or even new laws when it comes to ASEAN integration? So there's a huge question mark. So what we need to do as ASEAN community is to come up with a clear cut or the lines between the information providing as well as how people will be able to adapt to those laws in the future, because these two industries are very, very important, and also just the labor banking industry, which is suggested by the Philippines. But then to have this ASEAN integration, we are talking about the 10 member states.
Right.
So of course this is very important, whether which one adopts which laws, and also how public will receive, and also how transparent can it be when it comes to law and implementation.
Especially when it comes to the banking itself. I think there's been plans to come up with an ASEAN way of banking as well. So whether it standardizes or whether it causes confusion, I think it's definitely a step that is positive, because it facilitates different people from different countries when there is a more standardized procedure, that when you go to a country and you know already what to prepare, what they're going to ask you, and it's credible papers as well, and they're not just saying that, oh, I don't know what country you're from and how it works there, but this is not how it works here.
Exactly.
And to prevent that kind of incidents as well when it comes to starting up your businesses in other countries.
And also to add on to another big huge question that we can ask is, can ASEAN achieve to have a single market? And we're also talking about the currency. And then will all those 10 member states will give up on their currency and also agree to have one ASEAN currency? Because we're talking about the banking industry here. So to have the certain laws for certain countries, we can also talk about having the single currency here as well. So let's move on to the next news. Apparently, they're the most investor-friendly country. They are in an ASEAN region, and Vietnam is the most investment-worthy place in ASEAN, and it's got a lot of potentials apparently. And this is the common response of many foreign investors when being asked about their investment plan in the upcoming years. And when
Are you
it comes
surprised
to
though?
Pardon?
Are you surprised that it's Vietnam and not Singapore or Malaysia or any other country?
Because Singapore is already developed countries, and then it's looking at the other sort of perspectives and approaches when it comes to investment. But Vietnam is growing up, and then they have opened up more opportunities for foreign investors to come in, especially when it comes to automobile, technology, and in fact, a lot of Vietnamese younger generations they have been accessing to the internet via a lot of electronic devices. So I will say the foreign investors, they can have a lot of interest in having their own investment plans in the country.
I think the most attractive part about Vietnam that's attracting these investors is the fact that they are trying to diversify their economy. They're not just focusing on one particular industry, but they are trying to diversify to make sure that every part of it is strong, and they're also very good with international integration, and also they have quite good economic policies which accounts for something.
Right.
And the investors consider Vietnam's efforts actually to integrate into the world economy by negotiating with many free trade agreements. It's actually bringing them a lot of different investment opportunities, and Vietnam would actually be the largest beneficiary of the TPP, which also has other major trading partners like Japan, the United States, and there are 12 other countries involved. And this could benefit Vietnam because of its highly competitive position at the moment, where China is also gradually losing its competitive edge actually, and that will be due to a lot of reasons, and also because of the intellectual property rights that has been ongoing in the country.
That's very interesting when you talk about intellectual laws there, and also the competitiveness between China and Vietnam, because there is still tension between these two countries when it comes to economy and other sort of issues. But then for sure, China is a country that we cannot still ignore when it comes to economic states, because China is the second largest economic state after USA, and it's catching up really fast to overcome US as a economical state. And now what's happening is the Vietnam is sort of focused on to welcoming more foreign investors. And we talked about the TPP here, where a whole ton ASEAN nations are putting their eyes on. And of course, with the TPP, perhaps Vietnam can have more beneficial sort of elements from the other countries as well. Well, according to the statistics it showed by the participating in the TPP, Vietnam's GDP would add on to additional increase of 13.6% to the baseline scenario, so which is pretty good news. And I hope that we can see the Vietnam boosting up when it comes to economic status in the near future.
Definitely. I mean, with Vietnam attracting more investors, that's also bringing more investors in ASEAN in a way, so that does not only benefit them, but in the long run could benefit the whole region.
Okay, so we'll take another short break, and then when we come back, we talk about and also discuss about the socio-cultural side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Driana ASEAN. You're with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
At ASEAN Dailies, and we are at the social culture segment of Southeast Asia where we deliver news and discuss on that matter. Now, apparently, there's a man waging war against the pornography in India, and on his many trips to internet cafes in the bustling central Indian city of the Indore, this lawyer Kamlesh Vaswani discovered what he calls the epidemic of pornography, apparently.
Right, and he's actually attributing pornography to a lot of negative things in the country, and one of it, interestingly, is also the fall in GDP. The drop in GDP.
Oh.
And he said that when people watch porn, they become selfish, and when they are selfish, they don't want to work hard and give back to the nation. And he's been doing this petition for quite some time, actually, quite a few years. And he wants the youth of India to get out from drowning in porn, according to his own words. And it's interesting because he is fighting for this cause, but there's also been some people going up against him, saying that, well, you're not really quite making sense over there. Porn, of course, porn has its own negative side effects, but what you're doing is kind of over the board, because at the end of the day, it's up to people what they want to watch on the internet, what they choose to expose themselves to.
Exactly, and it's very interesting. But then he just did come up with his own sort of facts and information. But then, if that is provided, how is he gonna educate young generation? I mean, how is he gonna approach younger generation, or to prevent them from, watching porn again and again? I mean, because he also needs to think about the porn industries in India. I mean, they are getting money, and then having talking about the GDP drop. I am not so sure about whether it's a proven fact or not.
I think, like you said, it's based on his belief and his how he derived at that theory by himself, but it's not backed up by proper research. But do you know that since he started his petition, he has been responsible for the banning of 857 porn sites in India?
So was there any conflict between the industry or the company and himself? And that's another question that we can
That's right. We don't know about that yet, but we do know that, thankfully, a lot of people are speaking up against him. I mean, it's definitely his choice as well if he thinks that porn is not good, but it's not up for him to decide for everyone in the country what they can watch or what they cannot watch. And he still stands by his belief, he said, that pornography does make people selfish and unproductive.
Well, let's see how this sort of analysis, according to him, can prove. But then, we talked about the pornography before, and it does have a sort of negative effect on, especially on younger generations. So perhaps it's a way. I mean, we've been talking about this again and again, but education is one of the keys that we can move forward. And perhaps even when it comes to pornography, sex education is necessary in which of the country you are in. And India is still a very conservative country, but doesn't mean that you should avoid having this education approach.
Yeah, that is true, because I think I also read an article where they said a lot of the pornography these days actually come with the guy wearing the condom. And that does serve as a way of educating people as well. Like, we're doing this for fun, for money, but we're still using a condom, so should you.
Exactly. Well, that's it for our social culture part of ASEAN. Well, do stay tuned for the next interview, where we'll be discussing and interviewing this lady, Pauline Fan, to talk about performing arts and the beauty of the traditional arts. And we'll also talk about the diversity, which will be happening in September. And please do follow us on the social medias, on the Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And also we have a website, drianaasean.com, to get more information and the contents.
And don't forget to also download our Durian ASEAN app if you want to listen to us on the go.